a lot of things that are covered kind of end at 75. If you look at the percentage of cancer deaths, the majority of them happen over the age of 65. And for instance, mammograms, colonoscopies, like PSAs, it's still debatable whether you should get them or not. We do them. But those end at 75. Insurance says we will not pay for any more screening colonoscopies over the age of 75.
This is the More Than Money podcast that explores how wealth, purpose, and planning come together to create a meaningful life. I'm Jake Cuthbert, president of Aduco Advisor Group, and around here, we believe finances should serve your life, not the other way around. So let's dive in. So today we're here with Dr. Sunjay Mannan. Super excited about this one at the More Than Money podcast. So thanks for being a guest here today, Doc. Excited to have a conversation with you. But before we get going, why don't you give our listeners a little bit background on yourself, and then we'll dive into some questions here.
Oh, Jake, I appreciate you having me. And it's always a great talk with you, a podcast or not. It's great spending time. And so I guess about me, grew up in Southern West Virginia. So Northern Indian kind of heritage, and went to Cabell Midland High School. Did all the standard things you do as a kid, like scouts and basketball and sports and all that stuff. One younger brother who was 7 years younger. So apparently I asked for him at Christmas, and so the timing was appropriate. He was born in August, so
Perfect.
Parents were like, okay, we might as well get this
Play
done.
along, right?
Exactly. What I didn't realize was that he was going to be born the 25th of August, and my birthday is the 24th of August, so he kind of stole the limelight.
Yeah,
so.
Still the thunder, huh?
Yeah. And then my mom worked for Marshall University, and so she was like, oh, he'll just go here, free tuition, and at 17, you don't want to hear that.
Right.
So now at 39, I would go back in a heartbeat and be like, hey, home cooked meals and laundry, sign me up.
Yeah.
So went to WVU for exercise physiology. So after studying that, unfortunately, the ex-phys degree is kind of used as a stepping stone to other degrees. At the time, we were trying to look for opportunities for people with a bachelor's in ex-phys, like what could you do that you can provide for your family? Yeah. Otherwise, typically you get a PhD or you go to PT school. But ended up going to med school. You know, it's kind of the Indian thing to do too, right? It's like you're either a doctor or, hotel owner or, very limited careers.
Go Mountaineers, by the way. Just finished up a great baseball season. How about that? That was fantastic, man.
Yeah, I don't know how they did with the Jello shots. There was some Jello shot competition that I didn't really get.
I didn't hear about that one. And I didn't mean to get you off topic, but Go Mountaineers, right?
I wasn't sure if this is like a, purely business podcast or is this kind of
we got to have a little fun, man. We got to have a little
fun. So then went to med school at WVU as well. And at that time I met my wife, who is also a physician. She went to LECOM for her, osteopathic degree, originally from Jamestown, New York. And so we thought, okay, how do we stay close enough to grandparents, but not too close? Yeah. No, they're great. Yeah. So Pittsburgh was the landing spot, which has been awesome. Went to residency with Allegheny Health Network. Okay. And then had so family medicine there, and then had a Goldilocks career is kind of how I describe it. Mm-hmm. So started off working in an urgent care 9 days a month. Katie was in residency at the time, and she was like, I'm like laying down floating floor and listening to Shania Twain, and she's like, Sunjay, she's like, you got to get a job that keeps you busy.
Yeah.
Like at this point, you can't be home this much.
You're dangerous, right?
So then I went to full spectrum family medicine, which is inpatient, outpatient, rounding in nursing homes. You're grinding. Okay. I mean, these guys are cut from a different cloth. And around that time, my daughter was born, and I realized that I'm like watching my wife raise her on security cameras. Yeah. And so I thought, maybe working a little too hard here. Yeah. And then had a homecoming back to a health system, and have worked primary care for them for maybe the last 8 years or so. Yeah. So it's
and spent some time also doing some drug addiction type stuff as well, somewhere in it?
So in Washington, Pennsylvania, was the medical director for 4 addiction medicine clinics in that area. Great underserved population. A lot of patients were coming from West Virginia actually to get their care. So did that for 7 years, medical director for a nursing home up in Butler. And then currently work with Slippery Rock University as well as their medical director. And then we have, I don't know, 3 companies now that are med spas to do their aesthetic medicine. So anything from GLP-1s to like the Botox and the new lasers. It's kind of a cool field to see out of traditional stuff.
So health is wealth. Concierge medicine kind of was born out of that grind, right? Or like that flexibility, a kind of need to maybe pivot a little bit.
So there was a couple of things. One was I felt like I wasn't practicing medicine the way I wanted to practice. So in any health system, you're seeing 18 to 22 patients a day, spending 8 to 10 minutes per patient. You know, the fun stuff that you like to talk about with patients, the lifestyle change, the stuff that really makes a difference. That conversation is essentially like, hey, cut carbs. I'll see you next year. And, you know, a lot of times to make change, you just need more frequent conversations, more personalized as to what's really going on in their life. And you don't have the time to have that interview in that 8 to 10 minute appointment, even though they have a 40-minute slot. At the end of the day, you get like 10 to 15 minutes tops. So I wasn't practicing the medicine that I wanted to be practicing and talking about the things I wanted to talk about. You're also kind of bound by insurance and what insurance approves. So patients may have the ability to get better care. It's modern things that the research has shown works, but insurance doesn't cover it yet.
More of that proactive
100%.
kind of lifestyle rather than the reactive traditional medicine, right?
100%.
That's
Some people say medicine 2.0 versus 3.0.
Yeah.
That, you know, we'll wait for the disease to come up and then like, we're really good at that.
Yeah.
But there are things you could be doing before.
But can we avoid the disease, right?
100%. 100%. And then I also found that if you have a good idea in any corporate field, I think any corporate type of field, there's just a lot of red tape. And sometimes it's you have to have multiple groups. Like you might need another nurse and 10 people need to sign off on that budget.
Right.
Or it's like, okay, like, you know, if you know the ins and outs of the business of the medicine, like we have the money, it's just they're trying to cut a cost naturally. So that was something that never like kind of sat well with me, is that great ideas are just tabled month by month. And by the time someone does catch on to your idea and says it's a good one, they're gone and a new leadership person comes in. It's
Gotcha.
like flatline for another year or so. So you may not, you know, get that lab you need.
Yeah.
So that those kind of factors, and then the autonomy to live your life, like the freedom to say, hey, put the kids on the bus, be home by the time they get home. Your 9 to 5 grind. And then the documentation on 22 patients a day is tedious.
Sure.
It's a
sure.
lot.
And with all the red tape around the regulation, I'm sure that becomes challenging as well.
Oh yeah.
You know, with HIPAA and all that type of stuff, correct?
Yeah, HIPAA. I mean, patient confidentiality, definitely. I mean, that's something that, you know, we have locked in, but I would say like prior authorizations for testing that you think a patient needs to be done. I mean, my heart goes out to our ancillary staff, you know, our medical assistants and nurses, where the patients are wondering why their things aren't approved yet. And then they're getting letters from insurance saying that like, we're not going to approve it for X, Y, and Z. And you're just kind of the middleman. So a lot of throwing darts there in the dark. And that's definitely a grind for them.
Gotcha.
So,
you know, traditionally concierge medicine, I think make look like a luxury to some people. Talk about that a little bit as, you know, what that kind of looks like in your eyes and how you kind of introduce that concept to patients and sort of get that initial buy-in from them.
Sure. So concierge medicine is relatively new to Pittsburgh. I think there may be 2 or 3 office-based practices in Pittsburgh. I have had patients come from Chicago, New York, LA. They're like, we've always had concierge medicine. When we came to Pittsburgh, we knew that's what we were going to look for. So a little bit of a new concept to Pittsburgh. When it comes to the buy-in, unfortunately, part of it is fiscal, and that, like, do they have the resources for the membership fee? There are different, like, so concierge medicine would come under the category of a direct care model, direct primary care model. Um, it really comes down to the physician and how many patients they want to see. So some DPC models, the membership fee could be $100 to $150 a month. They're going after a different type of clientele, and they know that they're just going to have larger patient volumes. So, for instance, at AHN, a full-time PCP that has worked for 10 years could be have a 5,000 patient panel. In the DPC model, so direct primary care, they're still billing insurance, and they may have 400 to 500 patients. Then you have another concierge level, which would be what I practice, which we're looking for max 150 patients, and then we would need to add more providers. So I think the buy-in for us is that we do typically go after high net worth individuals, people who own their own companies, because then, from what I understand, and it would be one of those like, hey, talk to your accountant type deals, but these types of fees can be built into the business as providing a benefit.
Well, yeah, like a fringe benefit for, business owners and things. Yeah.
Exactly. And so the fee then becomes less of an issue from a fiscal standpoint. The other buy-in is the one resource that we'll never get back, which is time.
Right.
So a lot of these patients are flying everywhere. They don't have time to make it to their appointment. They see their PCP in an office. They're given an appointment next year. They don't know what they're doing. If it's a Monday, they don't know what they're doing Friday.
Right.
And their schedules and meetings could change.
Calendars are packed, and sure.
Exactly. And so for that kind of patient to make change when they're on the road like that, I tell my patients, like, don't be, offended. I'm going to be chasing you.
Right.
I'm going to be saying, hey, your labs are due. I'm going to be saying, hey, so and it's nice that we have the flexibility of, hey, Monday's not going to work for me. Give me a good day in the next 2 weeks. And then we make that happen. Right. The other thing is a lot of concierge medicine models are still bricks and mortar. So there's still an office that you need to drive to. There's no wait necessarily, but you're still driving. I believe in Pittsburgh, we may be the only one that's strictly home-based, so we have no bricks and mortar. So we will go to the patient's home or the patient's office so they don't have to drive. And we see our patients every every 6 months, no matter what. And then unlimited video visits. Telehealth is kind of relatively new post-pandemic. It obviously really took off. Which really gave us some freedom on how we care for patients. So I would say, like, you're looking for a patient that has the fiscal means or owns their own business. And then number two, doesn't have time to take care of themselves.
Right.
And you hear some of these executives, it's like, okay, when I retire, I'm going to start taking care of myself. Right.
Yeah.
Or you hear.
And is it too late? Right.
Probably. No, it's not too late, but there's just so much prevention that you can do, even to catch someone in their upper 40s, low 50s, that could prevent a major event in their upper 60s, mid 60s. And, that kind of gets me to one of my peeves with insurance companies where, a lot of things that are covered kind of end at 75. If you look at the percentage of cancer deaths, the majority of them happen over the age of 65.
Okay.
And for instance, mammograms, colonoscopies, like PSAs, it's still debatable whether you should get them or not. We do them. But those end at 75. Insurance says we will not pay for any more screening colonoscopies over the age of 75. Screening fit kits.
I wasn't even aware of that.
Yeah. So that ends at 75. And their mindset is they also have a budget.
Right.
Life expectancy is 78.
And they're kind of just writing you off almost.
No one would be surprised if that patient passed at 79 from colon cancer.
Because they've already kind of beaten the mortality table, right?
Yeah. And to me, it would be just as devastating to pick up a breast lump or a breast cancer at 81 as someone who was 50, but there's just a limited budget. So you get it from a business standpoint, what they're thinking. But I think if you're the family member of that patient, it's unacceptable.
Well, 100%.
So
you mentioned the successful people. If you had to pinpoint like one thing that you see as a common thread between those successful folks, like the highly successful people that may already be patients or the ones that you're looking for, what's the biggest challenge for them or the biggest pitfall that they're facing? If you had to pick like one thing, is there a common thread in that space?
The challenge that they're facing in the current medical system?
Yeah, or like the one thing that they're struggling the most with that would be why they should come see you as from a preventative standpoint.
I mean, I think from a preventative standpoint, the one common thread may be that with like the Chat GPTs, the Claudes, their neighbors, there's just so much information out there.
Yeah, you should try to be a financial advisor. But that's
Oh gosh, on what they should be doing,
yeah,
what supplement they should be taking, what tests they should be getting. Somebody will mention something, and it's like, yeah, I paid, X amount to have labs done every 6 months, and it's just not fruitful. It may be overkill. It could cause more anxiety to get some of those things done.
Okay.
And because they have the money, they're the perfect target for some of these recurring revenue model based lab testing.
Okay.
Where it's the infamous stoplight, right?
Yeah.
So you have some random nutrient that's red, yellow, or green, and you're in yellow, and guess what? I sell something that could get you to green.
Yeah.
And I always ask
a little bit
people,
of conflict of interest there,
yeah,
right?
I always ask people, like if someone's going to draw labs and say I sell what you need, it's like, okay, just pump the brakes right there, right?
Yeah.
But we try to stay really evidence based, and it's hard for these people with the time they have to go through the research and say, okay, what is my problem? What's the evidence that this is going to solve that problem? Then how do I go about it? Do I do a 6-week safety trial with this supplement? What am I measuring to see, is this improving my sleep, whether it's an Oura ring, or is this supposed to give me more energy? Are they objectively measuring it? And then is it making a difference? Because they have the money, they don't often see that, like, okay, I'm paying all of this stuff. Did it actually make a difference?
Right.
So I think at that level, information overload can be an issue.
Okay.
And just they have such limited bandwidth already.
Yeah.
With the decisions they're making to potentially lay off 100 employees versus there's a merger and acquisition happening.
Right.
You also get into caring for elderly family members who are and making those decisions. So now you're in a boardroom and you're getting a text that mom might have to go into a home.
Right.
So I think the common thread, I guess the umbrella common thread would be bandwidth.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The bandwidth that they're already using so much of.
Right.
To
not add more things, right?
Yeah. Who do I just text and say, should I be taking this?
Yeah.
Should I be cold plunging? My neighbor just bought a cold plunge for $5,000.
Yeah.
And then I'll ask the guy, one of my patients, I said, buddy, what are your goals? And, and he was actually training for some strength thing. And I said, well, the research shows that the cold plunge will decrease your max strength, like when it comes to actually lifting.
Yeah.
And if it is mental health, the increase in dopamine that happens afterward, if it is post-exercise soreness, there's great research around that. But if you're in the midst of this strength goal and you're a CrossFit competition, the cold plunge will actually hurt you. And he's like, man, you just saved me $5,000.
Right.
Right. So, there we go.
Well, and we've had conversations about little stuff before, right? What are you trying to solve for?
Yeah.
Right. And that's the figure out what you're trying to solve for.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you mentioned some data too. So can you shed any light on the data that's actually backed by sort of that proactive approach versus the reactive approach? Is there any kind of hard data on that, and we'll get to longevity here in a minute, because I definitely want to touch on that piece of the practice.
So I think that the biggest proactive approach, bang for your buck data point, and this is going to cover everything really, is the LDL cholesterol and the prevention of coronary artery disease. So we know that if your LDL is less than 55, you can reverse soft plaque buildup. we know there's a area under the curve phenomena that, like, maybe when you're 30, your LDL drifts above 150, 100. The longer, so if you have a graph, that graph at 150 and then it comes down and then someone eventually passes, the area under that line is your risk for having a heart attack or stroke.
Okay.
Now, from genetic studies, there are patients who they have an increased clearance of the LDL particle, so their LDL lifelong stays around 30.
Okay.
Right? So that's their LDL total concentration.
Mm-hmm.
So the minute you're born as a male, your risk for a heart attack or stroke being a part of your life is around 40%.
Okay.
As a female, it's around 30%. So those patients that had the LDL that was 30 or lower throughout their life dropped to around 8 to 12%. So say
Okay.
10%.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where, if you go to a general physician, they will use a 10-year risk calculator based on your LDL, age, certain other factors, and say there's a threshold. If you don't go above that threshold, you don't need a cholesterol medicine at this point.
Okay.
They're looking at 10-year intervals at someone's life. Age is one of the plugins for those calculators.
Right.
So basically, everyone's going to age into a statin eventually.
Sure.
But with the data that we know already, that if your LDL, if the area under that curve is decreased, your risk goes from 40 to 10%.
Yeah.
Like, let's just bury the hatchet with that.
Right.
Lower it,
Eliminate it, right?
Move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So if that's one of the top 4 killers, and so that's where primary prevention in a system, delay, there's going to be soft plaque buildup, then potentially calcified plaque. We can't reverse calcified plaque.
Okay.
And so what we do with all of our patients
So
is
don't wait till it breaks.
So that's that's
Right.
That's
It's
one
kind of
the
like changing the oil in the car, right? Don't wait until it breaks.
That's one of the reasons we get calcium scores on all of our patients, because that initially will tell us, okay, is there any calcium or not? If there's no calcium, yes, fireworks, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Then you want to decide, hey, if I don't want to be on a cholesterol medicine, basically what I'm saying is I want there to be plaque on my calcium score,
Okay.
and then I'm going to pay attention to it.
Okay.
Which is, in our opinion, the wrong attitude, because you're saying you want to wait for disease to be there and then do something about it, when we know we could keep those pipes clean from the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there are cardiologists out there that are like screaming this. They're like, why are statins like in the drinking water at this point? Like,
Right.
we put all these nutrients in our Kellogg's,
Yeah.
right? And not that I think we should have the statin in the drinking water. That's not what I'm saying.
Just
There are better
just for the
medications. There are better medications out there than the statin medications. It's just what we got.
Yeah.
But I think that, okay, with cardiologists saying that it will directly impact their future revenue. Like, if they're not doing heart caths, right, they're not making money.
Right. Right.
And they're saying if your LDL is under 55, it's better for you. So it's kind of interesting where we're going with medicine.
And do you see more movement towards that, or are we still kind of stuck in that reactive for the most part? Like,
I think for the
overarching?
general population, yes.
Okay.
100%. If you're practicing population-based medicine,
Yep.
you're using that calculator, saying 22 a day. You just can't have the conversations to build the trust with people to get the buy-in.
Yeah.
It's all
Gotcha.
sales. It's pitches.
Right.
Every day I'm pitching health. And you just can't have those conversations with people. Unfortunately, they spent 6 hours chat GPTing maybe why they shouldn't be on a statin.
Right.
You're not going to return that in 7 minutes.
Yeah.
So,
So if you could get every patient of yours to change one habit, just one habit, what would that habit be, and why?
It's actually interesting. We're on a finance podcast here. I would say know your budget.
Okay.
Yeah.
We were going to get to that too, but I like where you're going.
Yeah. Know your budget as far as like caloric restriction.
Okay.
I think most people have kind of bought in that sleep's kind of important,
We would hope so, right?
So, I mean, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, if you were I actually had a executive that was at FedEx, and then he moved away from there, but he was talking about this like big health retreat that the top executives in the country go to. It reminded me of something like off Billions, if you've seen that show.
Oh
where
yeah,
they
love that show.
They like fly to the Alps and they're like in a castle and stuff. But this was maybe 15 years ago, he went to a conference and they were preaching like the 6-hour window of sleep, where it's like you wake up every morning at 5, you go to bed at 11, you're doing some work and you're putting out fires by 6 a.m. basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then he said that maybe 12 years later, that same conference, they were like 8 hours of sleep. You need to get it. Like they just completely reversed on that for executives. So I think sleep, people are starting to buy in that it's important. But as far as nutrition, it would be that caloric restriction and know your budget.
Okay. And from the sleep standpoint, I know obviously everybody's body's a little bit different, but are there people that really can make it on less than like the normal amount of sleep that you're supposed to get?
For sure. There's like I'm blanking on the number, but if you follow like Diary of a CEO podcast, they've had some sleep experts come out and they'll spit out a percentage of people who could function on 6 hours. And by function, like other biometric things are normal. Like, so their cortisol is normal.
Okay.
They truly have energy. They're not caffeinating themselves every 2 hours.
Right. No, the Red Bull doesn't start at 6 a.m. Right?
They don't need the Red Bull. Exactly. So there is a small percentage.
Okay.
I think it's tough with military men and women as well.
Sure.
Because they get trained. I've got some vets who they sleep 2 or 3 hours. They've got apnea from their service and some of the things they were exposed to.
Yeah.
Like veterans, it's tough with sleep.
Okay.
At any level, but at the executive level for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Those habits are kind of ingrained in them. But yeah, there's the whole, what is it? The sleep animals. You can do these surveys. Are you a night owl or a wolf or a bear?
Yeah, right.
I think they're coming up with a lion now. So I think there are some genetic tendencies towards wanting to maybe go to bed closer to midnight, 11 to midnight.
Okay.
Versus someone who's like, okay, I'm ready to go to bed at 9.
I don't know if I can make it to midnight anymore.
Yeah.
I don't have that in me.
Once the kids are there, it's like, okay.
Yeah, right.
Like half an episode of Netflix.
Yeah.
The Andy Griffin Show. And then you're just passing out. But yeah, there are some, I think there's some truth to the different, I think the chronographs, the sleep chronographs that you can be.
Yeah.
I think 7.5 hours of sleep should be a pretty good goal.
Mm-hmm.
When people talk about bedtime, I think there was a Whoop. Whoop has done a lot of data on what's the most important parts of sleep. Is it the duration or is it the fixed bedtime and wake time?
Okay.
So they did a study with collegiate athletes to see when their performance physically and mentally declined based on sleep.
Okay.
And what they determined with that study, whatever the evidence showed, was that your wake time and sleep time being within 30 minutes every day was most important compared to whether you got 6 hours, 7 hours, or 8 hours.
Agnostic of what that time was, though,
Yes,
right?
depending on your chronograph, right? So if you're a bear, wolf, lion, like if you're going to go to bed at 11, going to bed between 10:45 and 11:15 every night, and then you're waking up 6:30, 6 o'clock every morning, that was most important.
Okay.
And if you were to pick one to focus on, it would be your wake time.
Okay.
That even on the weekends,
just
you're hanging out with the guys, whatever, or sports, you still want to make sure you're getting up between 6 and 6:30 if that's your wake time.
Yeah.
So
like anything else, I mean, it sounds like consistency is key, right? I mean, especially in our world, we preach that to our clients too, but consistency is key, right? You got to stay in it. You got to keep contributing, but I think you're kind of saying the same thing, from that standpoint.
Yeah, for sure. And that consistency is tough with that budget we were talking about. A lot of people, they have the weekend kind of screws them. Mm-hmm. Monday through Friday, they're disciplined. They've got their Premier Protein. They've got the cup of blueberries. They're like dialed in. Yeah. And then one meal.
Cheat day cheat meal becomes cheat days.
Exactly. It's the guy's night or the girl's night. It's the birthday party where you have 2 slices of pizza and the cake.
Yep.
You're trying to create maybe a 250 calorie deficit for 5 days. Mm-hmm. If you have a 1,200 calorie meal on a Saturday, you can't be surprised when on Monday you weigh the same. You don't see the scale trending down over the course of 4 weeks.
Right.
So the consistency, like you're saying, throughout the weekend, or I tell people you really got to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to go to the birthday party, make sure you get that weighted vest in, walk that morning,
Right.
do something to pay for those calories.
Yeah. To kind of give yourself a
Have a
deficit to
Have a plan.
have a plan. Just, I like that.
Have a plan.
I like that.
Have an advisor
Yes.
who has a plan.
Who has a plan? No, there was something else that you said that I didn't want to, oh no, I just wanted to switch gears a little bit. You know, you buy into the Peter Attia longevity, health span versus lifespan. So talk a little bit more about that and kind of like some of those important markers that, are like even the movement and just kind of staying active and things like that are really important for folks.
Yes. So I think Peter Attia is like a pioneer in the idea of the 2.0 to 3.0. I mean, he's really coined a lot of these terms. And then even the four horsemen, I really buy into that. And it makes so much sense. Like there may be some financial things that you could look at where it's like, okay, what are the four things that are going to ruin your finance?
Mm-hmm.
How do we stay away from those four things? If we stay away from those four things, you're going to be okay.
Right.
Right. So then this whole idea of the four horsemen with atherosclerotic disease, which is primarily driven by that LDL cholesterol, metabolic disease, which is mostly the blood sugar, metabolism, those types of things, cancer and dementia. So those are the four killers.
Uh-huh.
And so he's really like revolutionized the thought of like, hey, why don't we just go after these four? He took these statistics.
Yeah.
What are the top four things that kill people? Oh, these are the four. This is what we're going to focus on.
Okay.
And so aggressive cancer screening. So the idea is not that someone's going to live forever.
Right.
The idea is that if you have a heart attack or stroke, it's the big one at 98 in your sleep, and you're not having. So that's the health span, is that you're not having that event in your 60s and 70s,
Right.
and then having a decreased quality of life for another 25 years.
Yeah. And like that, it's that marginal decade, right? Let's still be able to pick up our grandkids when we're 90 years old, or whatever your thing is, right? But and how important do you think that is for people to really identify, I guess what would be a good exercise for the listeners to kind of go through to think about that marginal decade, to put that in perspective for themselves? Like what are the questions?
So yeah, I think there's a couple of books that can get you to really live intentionally. So number one, everyone should go out and get the Peter Attia Outlive book. Even if you don't have a concierge physician, that's the roadmap to this. The other book, a mindset related book, is Die with Zero by Bill Perkins. So that was a gift to all of our patients one year, just to live intentionally, not only financially, but there's some health kind of tidbits in there as well. So so the idea that Attia maybe put a word to, which is that marginal decade or the last decade, is, what are the activities that are non-negotiables you still want to be able to do, whether it's swing a golf club. I've had single men and women say that I want to be able to, still engage with multiple partners. And I was like, oh my God, how do we make that happen? Like, okay, how do we make sure, like, sexual health is important to people?
Sure.
And picking up grandkids from a sandy beach and lifting them up, unsupported. One very measurable one is carry 2 30 or 50 pound suitcases in each hand and still travel with those suitcases.
Yep.
So when you get an idea, he has a decathlon. I'm like, that's way too many events for me to talk through. Like, I can't think of, like, definitely 7 or 8 would be tough for me.
Right.
So we ask our patients, hey, what are the 3 things you want to do, within the last even 4 or 5 years of your life? And so for that suitcase one, let's say it's 30 pounds. We know that you're going to lose 10% strength every decade and 4% of lean muscle tissue if you don't do something about it. And so you can do the math backwards, which you would probably be able to do in your head, being a numbers guy better than I could. But if
we have a lot of software programs that do numbers for us too.
Yeah. So if you've got that 50-pound suitcase and let's say you're 60 and we're thinking 80, 10%, so 5. And then, so let's say you should be able to farmer's carry 265, 60-pound dumbbells for 2 minutes. If you can't farmer's carry those, you're simply not going to be able to easily or with ease carry those 250-pound suitcases.
Got it. Okay.
So train, because you have a lot of our executives are these athletes that played collegiate sports, maybe professional sports. They're used to grinding 2-a-days,
Right.
5-6 days a week. And it's hard for them to grasp that, like, hey, maybe 2 or 3 days could be enough.
Yeah.
That it's more about balance.
Turn it down a little bit instead.
Yeah.
Don't turn it off, but turn it down.
So I've had people say, like, hey, man, I lifted Monday, did my thing on Tuesday, missed something Wednesday. The week was shot. So I just didn't do anything else the rest of the week because I didn't get, like...
It's the mental part, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're kind of all or nothing.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think the conversations that people should be having with their spouses or friends is like, well, what do I really want to be able to do that last decade of life? And then it gets fun to kind of train for that.
Okay.
Because now you're incorporating farmer's carry, grip strength exercises.
Yeah.
If somebody's getting up from a sandy beach, maybe if you can, you're doing kettlebell workouts, from a floor, picking those up, really simulating the movement you want to do.
Sure.
And you know what you're training for instead of, doing a power clean because you need to get off the block because you're a lineman.
Right.
Right. So you were doing that at one age. And you were excited about it. Now you're not. And you were excited about it because you're like, oh, I got to hit this guy.
Yeah.
And now you can get excited to train for something else.
Gotcha. So. Okay. You mentioned dementia as well, and I know that how prevalent that's become kind of in society. But you also did some work, like in the exercise field, on ADHD and dementia and some of that prevention. You talk a little bit about that as well.
Yeah. So that was, they were trying to identify genes in mice and which ones were pertinent to memory. So they would basically drop these mice. I mean, when I think back, basic science research, my hat goes off to these people because they are in closed doors repeating hundreds, thousands of times with mice, the same experiment over and over again, basically to put information into like a bar graph. So when you look at a graph on a thing and it says like, okay, there were 1,000 participants,
right?
There was some undergrad student or some,
person.
Yeah. So they're putting the powdered milk into the small mini pool and then putting the platform in the pool they're going to swim to, dropping the mouse in the center. They drop into the milk and see how long it takes them to get to the platform.
Okay.
And then the knockout mice, which means that gene was deleted, which means they should have a memory deficit. They're swimming for 45 seconds to a minute to try to find the platform. Whereas the regular mice, they jump in, they learn the platform the first time, and then they immediately go to the platform afterward.
Okay.
So you can see a real deficit.
Yeah.
So one of them was a gene study. It was also to kind of mimic the effects of alcohol because alcohol can affect certain pathways that gene kind of is tied to. So that was that research. And then there was some exercise research with the ADHD where it was outdoor time and exercise decreased the symptoms on surveys as far as when parents did surveys for kids.
Okay.
So that was a little bit more clinical. Yeah, those were fun days. In the summer, mind you.
Oh yeah.
When
it was nice outside, you could be doing anything else.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Switching back to the business side, on the entrepreneurial side a little bit. So as a founder, your business and your health are both demanding things from you at the same time. So how do you avoid becoming a cautionary tale for yourself?
Oh man. I would say my wife is definitely a pillar of like reining things in and living intentionally. And, you only have your kids in your house for so long. It's the plan. So as far as like mental health and emotional health, yeah, Katie keeps me in line as far as like what's important, but it really is the plan. So it's, when is bedtime, wake time is 5 a.m. no matter what. And you're doing your morning cardio and you have your trainer that's going to walk you through things because you're not motivated enough to do it on your own.
Okay.
You're not going to show up if there's not an appointment. So know your weaknesses.
Yeah.
We did the home gym and it's like, I don't even use it, but if I'm going to miss something,
the world's most expensive clothes hanger, right?
God, exactly. If I'm going to miss an appointment and I have that like shame of like letting someone down,
yeah,
I'll be there. Um, and then having that partner that's like, okay, tag me in, tag me out, go do your thing, you go do your thing.
Yep.
So not being a victim. Let's see all the things I tell my patients. For nutrition, it's just eat like a dog. I tell my patients that. So the same food every day, the same portion sizes, just keeps it easy.
Yeah.
And the key, when we're talking about consistency, it's like when I'm on my road trip, I'm going to have my cherry Pop-Tarts.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like
that's your weakness.
Yeah,
is
yeah.
the cherry Pop-Tarts.
On the road trip, like like I'm not the guy that's not going to have Cinnamon Toast Crunch when I'm on vacation, or alcohol going to WVU. Like, yeah, there was a time.
Right.
But
Couches and booze.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, you're
Sorry, I didn't mean to digress too far.
God, we could go there. But
Burning couches.
You could go there. They do that at Maryland and other colleges too. I want to point that out. But when you have kids, all these things kind of phase out, and the trade-offs, right? So I could do this thing this night, or I could get a full night's sleep and be there for my kids. Like, all those things kind of change.
Yeah.
So I think from a mental health perspective, having a life coach, invaluable.
Okay.
Even before S hits the fan, right? It's like, for me, it was 2 kids, starting a business, 9 to 5, 3 other companies. Like, at some point it's going to hit the fan.
Yeah.
And so having that person that bi-weekly or once a month, anything I think twice about.
Yeah.
Not that I'm like in bed in the fetal position and can't move, but even if it just crosses my mind twice, I don't want it using any bandwidth, period.
Gotcha.
So write it down, bring it up to her.
Yeah.
Executive coach. Don't have a business degree. P&L, like all these like acronyms that business people talk about that are very basic. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And so one of my mentors talked about the SWOT mentality. And like, I'm not afraid to be the least intelligent person in the room.
Yeah.
And really knowing what your weaknesses are.
Sure.
Surrounding yourself with people that's their expertise.
Right. We all kind of have our place, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Like, I might be able to know the big picture and know how to establish patient rapport. I love pitching. Like, there are things that I can influence people to do things that you got to get the buy-in, see where they're at, but they'll eventually get to it. But the other things just have people that have your back and your strengths. So
Gotcha. Yeah. And I do some things like strategic coach, and I know you're part of some other groups as well. It's invaluable to have that peer group to really just bounce some ideas off of. And man, you can really sharpen yourself too, because there's some people that are playing a different game, and it's incredible when you can unlock like those as mentors.
I think that with AI, to be in a group is going to be so crucial, because there are people out there that are building these programs and LLMs, and they've got bots. Now the new thing I've heard is bots are managing your bots.
Yes.
And
heard of this.
And it's just, if I would never be exposed to that had I not sat in a group and now known. And in the medical field, it's difficult because of HIPAA. You have to be very careful with how you implement AI. And even in finance, the one finance guy there, like, there's protected information for people, and things have to be.
Oh yeah, I mean,
you have to be very
we
careful.
can't be loading. PII,
Exactly.
person identifiable information in there.
Exactly. But this one, for instance, marketing company, he was describing to me that there's a master bot managing 23 bots, and one of those bots is doing the email, the other one's doing the SEO, the other one's doing like the chat GPT optimization, so that now that if someone Googles like financial advisor into chat GPT, is this falling near the top? And then the forms, if they click in a form, the bot will then send them more. Like, so there's just so much stuff, and it's moving so quickly that if you're not in a group, you won't have the bandwidth to do this stuff on your own.
Yeah.
So those groups are like necessary for sure.
For sure. Something else you touched on, and like I just want to get your perspective on the intertwine or how it all kind of interconnects is, the financial piece. It's a huge stressor for people, right? Maybe not your clientele, but it's a huge stressor for people. But like, that mental piece, that physical piece, that, money piece, just talk a little bit about, how those all kind of need to work together. I think you kind of hit on it already with the coaches, but is there anything else that you can kind of bring out, from that?
Or you think like from my entrepreneurial experience in starting the company, or
that too, or, even what you've seen in patients, like some of those stressors and how they sort of one may affect the other, or how, they may overlap a little bit. Too much financial stress then equates itself to physical stress, or even like marital issues, things like that.
So how does the stress all tie in? Yeah, I mean, I think as far as stress in general, we talk about proactive and reactive coping strategies. So if we were tying financial stress to those, like how does that person deal with it? The proactive coping strategies are going to be, sure, having your advisor, having your plan, sticking to it. Everything should be automated, and like kind of knowing your weaknesses. So if you're that person that money hits your wallet and it's going to burn a hole through it,
right?
Like you need your paycheck to go into an account and all your savings are automatically going to all these other areas. And then you're essentially giving an allowance to yourself,
right,
to burn, right? So that would be a proactive strategy. Relating the mental health thing to that, it could be your sleep, exercise, nutrition. Those are all proactive. And then social circle. Are you golfing every Friday? Do you have that group of friends that you hang out with? Some people it's meditation. Every morning they do it.
Yeah.
Some people look at exercise as solely a mental anchor.
Okay.
Because truly, if you're looking for the six pack, that's in the kitchen. It has nothing to do.
Right.
You like, I kind of chuckle when people are like, hey, I need to look better aesthetically, so I'm going to exercise more. Like, well, yeah, I don't know. That's probably 10% of what you need to do.
Right.
So, and nutrition, when it ties into this whole stress thing too, there's an evolving field of nutritional psychiatry, where you can be a physician and then do a fellowship in nutritional psych, where all you do is talk to your patients about how does that food affect your mood.
Okay. No, and is that more of like the dyes that we hear about, like the red number 40s, or is it really like the glucose spikes and things like that?
This is the stuff that, like, when we think retrospectively, it's like, oh yeah, no shit, like right,
no super
shit,
common sense,
shit. Which is like when I have a burger and fries, I don't feel good 2 hours later.
Fair, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Whereas
I feel like I need to take a nap instead of
exactly.
the protein shake.
But some people don't realize how. I mean, obviously these foods are designed to be addictive. Like if you keep some sweets in the house and you just think it's going to be a one-time thing, next time you go to the store, you're like, well, might as well pick this up. I'm here. Right. So I think when you're talking about finance and stress, those would be proactive things to kind of dial in. And you could probably rank what your top 3 is. That's going to be different for everybody. That what's the most important thing for you to do before our 6-week video visit.
Yep.
Then I think it's important to think about a reactive, because people can have maladaptive reactive.
Okay.
So you think like the market's crashing, like let's pull the money out, right?
Yeah.
So if you don't have a coach or someone to talk to that can talk you off that cliff, having that conversation is a reactive strategy. Some people might say, oh, I'm super stressed. And I've got some guys in the finance world that like it's a drink, right?
Yeah.
But today, in today's market with, wars and, politics and everything, I mean, the stress of managing people's money, I can't imagine the calls that people are getting, you may be getting.
Yeah.
How many a week is walking people off of cliffs? Or should I put everything in this one, drone stock? Like, let's move all our money into like this one thing.
It's been recently SpaceX has been the question, but
my brother just texted me about SpaceX too. So the one reactive coping strategy is having that person to talk to, that advisor. So the SWOT mentality. I've had people say, hey, walks outside, exercise is another one to return to.
Okay.
But the question is what is that reactive coping strategy doing for you?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And then thinking about how that stress ties into sleep.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of people, it's like they lay down and their brains turn on. So, like it's just like, what did I do today?
Guilty.
What am I going to do tomorrow? How are the kids? Oh, I haven't spent time with the kids. Mom.
That's why I keep a little notepad by my bed to just get those,
the brain
get all
dump
those
strategy.
nasty,
The brain,
nasty
it's
thoughts
great.
out.
Yeah. The brain dump strategy works for sure.
Yeah.
Or the right supplements. Again, what are some evidence-based supplements to kind of implement those?
Sure.
So I think tying everything together, the proactive, reactive coping strategies.
Yeah.
Some people, I always ask them, like, what are your top 2 stressors? And they're like, oh, I'm not stressed. And I'm like, well, if you had to pick 2,
Right.
what would they be? And those 2 are like super significant. When they come up with them, they're like, well,
Maybe I didn't realize that this was a stressor. Right?
Exactly. So it's always fun to have those conversations.
Gotcha. One other thing that you kind of, I want to circle back on, because it was a thread that you had mentioned on a couple of the questions that we talked through, is what does that social circle look like as far as when we talk about longevity? You mentioned single versus, maybe married or divorced or whatever. But also like having those friends that you can count on. Is there any evidence base around like having that, I guess, sort of being a loner in longevity versus being, having that solid social circle in longevity?
For sure. Yeah. So the idea of a tribe, the way I like to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people incorrectly, like, labels are okay. Like, you read these books about whether you're introverted or extroverted or, so I think that the social circle can look different for different people. I like the definitions for extrovert and introvert in that, extroverts, they get energy from being in social situations. They kind of get, whereas introverts, it uses more energy to do that.
Right.
So it's not that they don't value a social circle. It's just that they need less of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think that you can change. I think it's a spectrum. Everything is not going to be extrovert or introvert. You could have been an extrovert in college and then slowly tend towards reading Harry Potter and going to bed when you're 30. Right. So I think that it may look different for different people, but it is important for everybody to kind of recognize how much energy do they have to give to that circle.
There's another one too, and I just saw it. I'm going to forget what it's called on Instagram, but it's somewhere between an introvert and an extrovert.
Of course.
It was.
And he's just published a book. He or she has just published a book.
I don't know. It's going to drive me nuts, but I'll so it's basically like, you can extrovert when you need to.
Yeah.
But then you need a break. So you go an introvert, right?
It's a spectrum. It's a spectrum. Yes. It's a spectrum.
I kind of identified with the new word, and that's why it drove me nuts, and I couldn't, or I can't think of it. So.
Yeah. I mean, I just find, like, personally, like, I feel like I am an extrovert, right? Like I could bounce from place to place, and being around people, like, it gives me energy.
Yeah.
Like, I'm probably, like, my wife knows I'm in a bad place if I don't want to, if I don't.
Ambivert.
We're getting a prompt here.
We're getting a prompt.
I thought he was.
I don't think that was the one I saw, but that was a good one.
I thought he was telling us that we got to hurry up. I was like, oh God. So omnivert.
Maybe.
That sounds like they
Omnivert
eat plants. I don't know. Maybe they eat everything. Omnivore. So don't quote me on that, but
I'll have to save or I'll have to just do the Instagram post. Maybe we can put it in the subtitles of this.
Yeah. But I find, for me, if I can't be the Sunjay that I want to be in an event, that's when I know I need a break, right? I would rather not go to the event if I can't be that guy that's usually, jocular and whatever.
Yeah.
I don't even know what jocular means, but I've been told I was that.
Okay.
But
That's fair.
So that's when I know that I'm like, okay, I need to be more introverted.
Yeah.
So,
and I know we're all kind of, we're sort of, coming to the end of the conversation. This has been great, but I think the one thing that I usually ask guests is like, so, from your entrepreneurial journey specifically, 3 companies plus the other stuff, right? if you had a piece of advice to give doctors or any other professionals about betting on themselves, what would it be? Or taking the risk to bet on themselves?
Taking the risk to bet on themselves. What advice would I give?
Because you bet on yourself to make this health is wealth work, right?
Yeah, so I think it comes down again to that circle. I was really blessed to be surrounded by mentors. I mean, as a physician, you are trained to kind of be an employee. You get zero amount of business education at all. In residency, they're training you to then offer you a big signing bonus outside and then lock you into like a 10-year,
Gotcha. Yeah.
So you're being trained to get right into the system. If I didn't have the mentors, the 5 to 6 mentors, I wouldn't even going online and getting a business license was like nerve-wracking to me.
Okay.
Like, oh my God, I got to pay $1,500 and now I have an LLC.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know what an LLC stood for. And I'm like, what does that mean? And now taxes and this and that. And like having those OGs that are in their 60s and are like, they'd hit that glass ceiling for whatever it was in their company and they chose to break away.
Okay.
Surrounding yourself with people like that. I mean, to physicians specifically, it's another side gig for me that I want to start a company just to teach physicians how to leave.
Okay. Like a kind of exit strategies, no matter which stage.
How to start their own thing if they want to start it.
Yeah.
That you don't need to be in a system.
Right.
And how to legally not ruffle any feathers. Like I'm thankful for that health system, everything they taught me, paying the bills, student loans, everything the health system did for me. Very thankful for that.
Sure.
But it doesn't necessarily mean that that was the type of life I wanted to live. How do you leave that respectfully?
Right.
And start your own thing to where you're not stressing the system.
Yeah.
And
but also leave that safety too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a certain level of safety that comes with a paycheck. That's
100%.
Starting a business. I know in my own journey.
Yeah. I mean, one of the guys was telling me, one of the OGs was like, Sunjay, like, where's the risk really for you? Like,
okay.
If this fails, okay, which he said it wouldn't, he's like, you just go back to being a doc, making what a doc makes 9 to 5.
Right.
He's like, when I started my business, I looked at my wife and our 3,000 square foot house at the time and said that we have to move into an apartment and I need to take like a $1.5 million loan on this thing that I wanted to do. And she looked at me like, what? like what? Like what are we doing here?
Yeah.
And if this didn't work when I bought these 3 franchises, like I had nothing.
Okay.
I was losing my corporate job.
Yep.
And I was definitely going to be blackballed by them for joining them and would be applying. And we had dreams of like my wife being retired at 38. He was telling me, 40.
Yeah.
And so your risk, it's for physicians, I think they don't realize how maybe risk-free it is. There are risks, but how low of a risk it is because physicians are always needed.
There's always a fallback plan.
There's
right?
job security for even nurse practitioners, PAs, like anyone in the medical field at that level.
Yeah.
To start your own thing, you just have to go about it the right way with the system that you're working with.
Okay. Gotcha.
So
nice.
So get the mentors. I don't know if I answered the question. Surround yourself with people who have been through what you're thinking about doing.
Right. And not necessarily even in the same industry, right?
No.
It can be, get some different perspective, right? I think that's important.
Yeah. No, they were not physicians.
So, yeah. Cool. Well, this has been really fun. I appreciate it. I know your time is valuable as well. So appreciate you amusing me for a little while here.
For sure.
And check us out. The More Than Money podcast. Slam that like button or follow us on YouTube and for more information. We'll link healthiswealth.com to it's Health is Wealth concierge.com. We'll link that in the show notes. So appreciate you, buddy.
Thank you, Jay.
Thanks.